All right, welcome back, everybody. Clearwater Jazz Holiday's Young Lions Jazz Master Virtual Sessions here with our friend Hiram Hazley. Hiram, how you doing, man?
Real good, Steve. How are you today?
Oh, fantastic. We're so happy you're with us. Your topic today is called gig preparation, which is something that you have some really good experience with over the years, and I'm so happy you're going to talk about that and share some of your wisdom with folks. Participants are muted for the courtesy of these sessions, but if you do have questions, I will help moderate those questions using the chat feature, and we'll get those questions to Hiram. And thank you so much for following along. After these live sessions, we record them, and the video gets put into the studio at clearwaterjazz.com, brought to you by Blue Water Wealth Management at Steward Partners and Duke Energy. And we put the audio portion of the sessions onto the podcast, the Young Lions Jazz Master Virtual Sessions podcast. There are 187 items worth of content produced just this year, and over 3,000 total plays on the podcast in just a few months. We couldn't be more excited about that. We're hoping you're finding good value in these. Let me tell you a little bit about Hiram, and I'm going to turn it over to him for his topic today on gig preparation. Hiram is a vocalist, an electric upright bassist, keyboardist, drummer. He actually started with the trumpet, though, at the age of 12 and later migrated to the bass when he was hired at Busch Gardens. But before getting paid to play, he attended St. Petersburg College, Bethune-Cookman University, New York City College, and at those institutions he studied with the likes of Chris Stiles, Sylvester Pope, and Ed Summerlin. As a professional, he was a member of the fabulous Buddy Miles Express, Rocky Ruckman and the Beat Heathens, and his own groups, Magic, Fence Walk, Spasmodic Mood, and, of course, La Jazz. He also performed at Busch Gardens for 20 years as an entertainer, as well as sometimes assisting music director Desmond Boone with different shows. He is a full-ranged musician and 100% awesome guy. He is currently performing in the Tampa Bay area with his many groups and teaching at his studio, Hazley Productions. If you'd like to get in touch with him, check out La Jazz of Tampa Bay on your social media platforms, or contact him at Hiram Hazley at AOL.com. Hiram Hazley at AOL.com. Hiram, welcome to your first Young Lions Jazz Master Virtual Sessions. We couldn't be more happy to have you with us, man, helping to build this wonderful treasure. I'm going to turn it over to you now. The stage is all yours.
Thank you so much, Steve. It's a pleasure being here. I want to say, first of all, hello to my good friend Lee. Haven't seen you in a minute, buddy. What I wanted to share today was just some of the experience that I've encountered from beginning to now. I started out, as Steve said earlier, on trumpet, and I've always had a passion for music. And it wasn't jazz, it was more motivated by the pop music and the 70s kind of sound, you know. And I started listening to people like Earth, Wind & Fire, and the jazz influences on the dance music, something that really stuck out to me. Then I stumbled on a Milestones album, and that took me to a whole nother way of thinking. And as I grew and as I encountered different musicians on different levels, I started noticing things that was working for certain musicians and things that weren't working, such as my first point, punctuality. You know, if you ever hired for a gig, if someone asks you to play, it's always real generous and respectful to try to get to the gig at least an hour early, because you never know what's going to come up. You never know what you're going to encounter. And with a lot of situations, even if it's a regular gig, say for instance, you work a regular Wednesday night at Blase Blase, when you get there, 9 times out of 10, something is going to be different. Your setup is going to be changed, or something is going to be missing, something may be out of place, whatever. the case may be, you want to be ready so that when it's time for you to hit, you actually hit. Because a lot of managers aren't as understanding, and I'm not saying that, not on top of it, but they're not understanding if you don't start at 9 o'clock. They don't realize that when you got there, you had to clear the stage, or you had to move your whole operation. All they care about is their part of the deal, which is their commitment to the owner. Your commitment is with the manager. Understand the steps, understand the loyalty that it takes to get and establish a relationship with these managers and owners. That's one thing that's really going to get you in the door. So keep your punctuality to a point that when you get there, they know you're there. I don't have to worry about the band. The worst thing is to have a musician show up 10 to 15 minutes before it's time to play, and then they got to set up, and all of a sudden they need this, they need that. All of a sudden now you're, oh God, what I got to do is you're scrambling. When it's time for you to play, your mind is a little bit frazzled because you've had to go through a lot of preparation. So get there early and try to make that scene be less of a nuisance as possible. Okay. The next thing I would try to share with you is how to communicate. Communication is really good, and with a lot of the good musicians, young and old, they get so caught up in the mentality of practicing. Practicing actually isolates you from the rest of the world. If you put in 3 to 5 hours a day, that's 3 to 5 hours a day. You don't know what's going on in the rest of the world because you are into you. And when you come out, if you go to a club and you see some players, a lot of times your natural instinct is not to speak. And not that you don't like the person, and not that you don't want to be, friendly. It's just that you're not naturally open, or a tendency to speak is not in your mindset. Be a little bit more approachable, because people can't read you until you on your face, basically. You got to be able to go up to somebody and say, hey, what's happening? My name is Hiram. I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And before you know it, you've established a friend. Friends get you work. Friends get you work. They will hire you if they like you. You got to be someone that people like. I mean, I've seen the greatest musicians around here don't get a lot of work because they're just not approachable. And people don't know it, say, man, this guy is, this guy's a jerk. And he's not really a jerk. He's just into where his mindset is, because he was a practice. He was a cat that stayed in the session, in the rehearsal hall, which is nothing wrong with practicing. As you know, you guys play, keep playing. But my experience has always been to open up a little bit, let the world in, and the world can help you. Because as a musician, I was blessed to get a job working at Busch Gardens, which was like, it floored me to know that a musician can get benefits, 401k, have a 9-to-5 job as a musician. I mean, for 5 years I was in school. I went through the different schools, and on the hill at Bethune-Cookman, a friend of mine, trumpet player, he called me and said, hey man, you got to get down to Busch Gardens. They're hiring for the summer. So I shot down to Tampa, and I got a job, and it was only for 3 months. But the guy that worked there full time quit for no reason at all. To me, it was no reason at all, because to have a job like that was invaluable. The reason he quit is because he didn't want to move equipment. Dumb reason to quit a job like that. So anyway, I took the job. I really wasn't playing bass. I was always slapping around on an old electric bass, just trying to get that Larry Graham funk thing. I had gotten it enough to be able to establish an E minor scale. I practiced that from the low E as far as the instrument, the range of the instrument would go. And I just practiced that. I would look at cartoons or movies and whatever, and before you know it, I'd gotten 2 or 3 hours of practice in a day, which established my left and right hands being coordinated enough to get a smoother sound. That's something I would suggest on anybody, whether it be upright, trumpet, electric. Just practice the scales. That definitely gets you smooth, But the thing that really got to me is when I had a chance to work with that Busch Garden scene, it made me realize, okay, now we're in a situation where I can start making this a business. Okay, get my next point. The preparation for a business or just trying to get yourself prepared, being prepared for a gig. Say, for instance, the gig isn't a style of music that you're normally used to. You may be a jazz player, but it may be a dance gig. So if somebody's calling you for a dance gig, try to get an idea of what songs you're going to be facing. Once you get those songs down, try to learn them, and let the guy know, hey, I know these songs. You're going to be doing them a certain way. Get as much information as you can about the gig. Get as much information as you can about the parking situation. Get as much information as you can about what you need to know to make his job easier. Because once you start running your own band, you're going to be loving the people that take that into consideration. Somebody comes in and says, hey, man, what do you want me? They sat up there and they sit down and they chilling. You don't want somebody to come in and say, hey, man, about 5 minutes ago where you want me, I got issues. And when they set up, they disappear. Because you never know when they're going to ask you to play. They may ask you to play a little bit early tonight. Now you got to go look for your band. So you make sure that this is something I was taught when I was younger. The best band leaders are the best people, are the best followers. The best leaders are the best followers. Or should I say the best followers are the best leaders. People that know how to follow a system are well prepared to lead a system, especially if the leader is somebody that inspires you, because the people that put things together think about it 3-4 nights before it happens, sometimes a week before it happens. They're thinking about it in their mind, how am I going to put this together so it can go smooth? Say, for instance, my New Year's Eve gig. I was thinking about that. Yes, I was thinking about that 2 weeks ago, actually. How's that New Year's Eve gig going to go? Who do I have to have? I've gone through so many musicians, not because they don't like me, it's just that they're working. I work with contractors. The jazz is a sound. It's not really 3 individuals, it's a sound. We play, people that play with me, we play the same stuff. I use my arrangements or what have you. So when you hear us playing Linus and Lucy and The World's a Ghetto, because those are the sounds that I bring to the table. And I establish a sound. But trying not to drift, when you get cats that know your situation because they called you and say, hey man, what do you need me to know? Preparation is invaluable. Once you learn how to approach situations and have cats looking forward to working with you, money is going to start happening, because this is a money-based business. I mean, you can love music all you want, but you can still be working at whatever. And, I always say this too, and I don't mean to undercut the scene, but I told my kids, I said, I'd love for you to get something sounded like be a doctor or something and play music on the side. But if you're going to commit to music, you better commit so that you can make it a life. You don't want to have to share your time with Walmart, because Walmart is not what you do. Okay, if you can understand that, if you have any questions about that, we'll get back to that. Now, my next section is going to be involved in situational awareness. And it kind of goes hand in hand with the last 3 topics that I brought up. Situational awareness is when you come into a gig and you see it's an ethnic gig, certain things you want to make sure you stay away from. You want to be aware of who you're dealing with. Excuse me. You want to make sure that the people that you're around, you're not offending anyone. If you're moving equipment in and everybody's having dinner, you don't want to bring so much on one load that if something drops, it scares the whole crowd. You got to be considerate of who you're dealing with, because the first thing 90% of the older people that you come to play for, the first thing they're going to think is, that band is going to be loud. And that is a bad start mentally, I remember years ago when I started setting up, because forever I set up my own system. So I get to the gig 3 to 5 hours earlier, and I'm doing it all myself, and then I'm not starting, but I wanted to make sure it was right. And my pet peeve was setting up the system without feedback or a big electrical pop, because that scares people. I remember one time I was setting up and I plugged something in and turned it on, and it was wide open because I didn't check the mixer to make sure the volumes were down. Believe me, after that, every time I turned it on, the volumes were down. But you got to make sure that you're trying to make sure that you're not a distraction. That's the bottom line. If you got a family having dinner at a table and you're behind a kid, make sure you're moving that equipment and you don't touch that chair. Give yourself space. Situational awareness is what allows you to not be a distraction to whatever is going on. Sometimes you can't get to the gig. They won't allow you to get to the gig early enough to avoid the crowd. I try to do that. In some situations, they may be having dinner way before you could even get your hour or 2 hours early to set up. So you have to be aware of that kind of thing. You know, when you come in there, make sure that you're not the one that's going to be everybody's going to stop and go, you know, because that's not what they're about. It's about whatever is going on at the time. My next topic, I think, is very important, which goes hand in hand with the previous topics, is how to network. Now, if you're going to be what you want to be as a musician, create an image for yourself. Create whoever you are. Get a business card and start passing out your cards. Get other cards for people. Remember names. When you go to a gig and you meet a husband and wife or some kids or whomever, try to remember those names so the next time you see them, you say, hey, what's up, Jim? How you doing? Oh, man, you remember my name. People look at you as stars, even though we don't look at ourselves as stars. You kind of got that little bit of a star thing because we're doing something that a lot of people would love to do. And believe me, the musicians that I've heard, you guys play. That's a blessing. I mean, this is the highest level of musicians I've seen at a young age that I've ever seen before. And I've been around the business for a minute. These kids today are coming here and they're cutting it because the Lions is a good name for them because they beast. You know what I mean? But you want to make sure that you're becoming a household word. There's a little guy that comes to my session. Good friend of mine lives in Canada, and she goes home according to the season. And she Facebooked me and said, hey, is this guy going to be playing tonight? This guy doesn't know the effect that he has on someone that lives way in Canada, because you're establishing a name for yourself. Showing up at sessions is a good way to network. If you go to a session, there are obviously going to be some other musicians there. Get those names and give your name so that if you're ever in a situation where you need a keyboard player, drummer, or whomever, you can reach out and say, hey, man, you want to do this gig with me? Now you got a list of cats. You never know who's going to always be in place, who's going to always be available when you're trying to make that next move. You know what I mean? And it's the last thing you want to do is not have accessibility and contact with musicians that may be able to help you out. And the more musicians that help you out, the more possibilities of everybody that's playing knowing your normal songs, your normal routine. That always helps the process. So you can establish a sound for yourself. Okay. Next one is appearance. Now, my recent pet peeve has been, I think I woke up one morning, and I always wake up with ideas. And I woke up one morning and I was looking at some jazz videos on YouTube. And I noticed all the players had on suits. I said, that's odd. And these guys were young. These guys were in their 20s, some of them 18, 19, but they were in suits, they were playing, and they made the scene look so much, it elevated the scene. And if you think about when normal churches, when the pastor comes into the church, the pastor's not wearing a jumpsuit and some shorts and flip-flops. The pastor comes in with a suit on, establishing another level of, okay, this guy is somebody that's respectful because he's respecting the craft, he's respecting the situation, he's just respecting the platform. That's what I try to put and instill in the guys that work with me. Sometimes it's hard to get the cast to come in and wear a tie and a suit. Hey man, I don't want to do that. Well, please do that. Let's just try it. Let's just try it. And all of a sudden now, people that think about the jazz, you think about the guys in the suits playing. Okay? It's all a look. Abilities are there, but the most important thing is how you look. Your initial look to people that don't know what you're doing, don't know what you're selling. If you're selling something, you got to make sure that when you come into the table, you knock on that door, you look presentable, because the first thing they're going to do is judge you on your looks. Think about it. So when you're making yourself available, say for instance, these young groups, young musicians, the bands, you make it a thing to wear suits to your gigs. And all of a sudden, you're going to get so much attention. You're going to get so many gigs. Gigs come from gigs. A lot of times you can promote, you got to go through the routine. But a lot of my gigs come from the gig I just did. Somebody comes and say, hey man, you guys available for this? Hey, I'm a club owner. Can you come do this? Hey man, I need to, and before you know it, you got a line of things going on. When you get to that gig, another gig may come from it. You get to the next gig and so on and so forth. So you got to make sure that you try to look good, respect the art. If the musicians today would start looking better on stage, you can get a suit, get you a couple of suits, man, get you some ties, put on some hard shoes, look the part and play at the level that they're playing. There's no telling where that's going to go. Okay, you're not looking at the little kids, and you're looking at young men and women that are respecting the art. And it's all about respecting the art. If you give respect, you will get that respect. The next point I like to bring up is one that's really important to me, is flexibility. And the reason I say that, I worked a gig a couple of years ago, and I've never had this happen before or since, but the gig required us to play from, say, 7 to 11. Well, it turned out that we couldn't start at 7. They asked us to start at 7:30. So at 11 o'clock, I look over and the trumpet player that was on the set was standing outside. The sax player was playing, and he's looking like he knew something that I didn't know. So after the song, I said, well, where's so-and-so? He says, I don't know, man. He said the gig was over for him. So after the gig, I went over and I spoke with him. I said, why did you leave the set? Well, my deal was from 7 to 11. That is the silliest thing I've ever encountered, because who's that structured? Who's that serious? You only play from 7 to 11. What if they asked us to stop earlier? Are you going to play to 11 anyway? It doesn't make sense. You got to be flexible enough to deal with the situation. And, hey, man, I need you, we're going to play a half hour over. Okay. Don't get bent out of shape, because you could not be working that gig and somebody else could be working it that wants to work. Everybody's hungry. And the reason I think I'm blessed to do a lot of gigs is because I'm hungry. I put myself in situations where only the band got paid. It worked out for me because I got a chance to practice for 4 hours on the bass. And I played with some really good musicians. That experience alone was paid for me. And that's just me. I'm willing to work. I'm willing to do what it takes to make this scene a scene. All of a sudden now, hey man, there's the jazz. Hey man, there's Spasmodic Mood. There's magic. These guys are trying to work because I'm doing what I can to make it happen. You got to create your own scene. And this is my final point. I hope I'm not too short. I guess I'm blabbing here. But business, building yourself as a business is probably one of the more important parts of this whole chat. And that is this: if you take nothing else from what I say, consider yourself as a business. And a wise person told me that if you treat it like a business, you get paid like a business. Very important. Okay? Get your business cards, create a name, create a look, establish a look, rather. Network. Okay? Put your website together. Okay? Create nuances about you that nobody else does. Record. You guys are young enough to have several recordings now. I mean, had I known what I know now, then there's no telling where I could be. I've had opportunities. A lot of the opportunities came late in my life. When I played with Buddy Miles, I was up in age. We were up in our 50s. But it was still Buddy Miles. It was blowing my mind just to look at the cat on drum. Hey, this is Buddy Miles, man. It was a national act. But you guys are to the point and you're playing at such a level, you could be touring. And don't just look at jazz, as the only form of music. Jazz is a great art because to me, it's the ultimate art. If you could play jazz, you should be able to play anything. If you think about it, jazz is the ins and the outs of your instrument. And one of the little kids told me, I'm going to make this instrument my lady because I'm going to learn her in and out. Very good point from a very young man, which is a very wise man. And I learned so much from that. I learned so much from listening to musicians, regardless of the age, You guys have bring so much to the table. Every night I play, I learn something, whether it be a drummer, keyboardist, vocalist, I learn something every night. And I've been doing this for a zillion years. Okay, so when you put in your business together, I'm laughing, Lee. When you put your business together, think about you as a business, put yourself on a time schedule, If you got to work from 9 to 9 on your business, you work from 9 to 9. Take days off, take lunch, take breaks. Give yourself an identity as a business, and before you know it, you're going to start getting paid like a business. But the one thing I want to say too, I don't have this on my list of points, but as it kind of crosses my mind, I spoke earlier about communication and meeting, getting to know club owners. Club owners are rare breed. These people are concerned about members. They really like you. Oh, you sound great, but how are the members looking? Because that's how they exist. If you make money for them, then they want to pay you money. And we used to say in the old days, wow, man, he wants to pay us this, but he wants us to bring in a crowd like this. That's how it is. That's the position that we have to assume. But think about this. If you can get 10 people to follow you everywhere you go, in some of these rooms, 10 people is a lot of people. And when people when they walk past that door and they send 10 people grooving and making and applauding after solos and making a big deal, they're going to come in. Now you got 12. Now you got 20. Now you got 25. And some of those people are going to become your regulars. So get to know the club owner, find out what they need. You can go up to a club owner and build a gig by saying, look, why don't you let us do this for a certain amount of time this way? And if you got to come out your pocket with a few dollars to pay a small group to work with you, it's worth it. Because before you know it, you're going to establish a gig, and in the end, you can get your money back. It's about being able to give to receive. Steve, I think I've kind of went there, and I wanted to make sure I give you, commend you for even asking me to do this. I've always been intimidated by this because I respect the jazz players so much, and I'm learning jazz every day. I learn what I learn and I do what I do. But this is a business now. When it becomes a business, we're all on the same level. And I wish you guys luck, man, and I hope to see you again in the near future.
No, Hiram, that's great stuff. And, I put out a little feeler just now in the chat room to see if anyone had any specific questions for you, but it got me thinking about, the culture of our year-round education and outreach in part involves cultivating this community of young lions, these young players that we want to help with instructional help, which we do, but we also create these platforms for them to perform. And that may be at the festival. It may be at events that we do throughout the year. It may be helping to provide a gig at a fundraising gala or a networking social or a client appreciation event where a young player can play with someone more established like yourself. And I want to talk a little bit about that because a good part of our audience are high school jazz players, and they may not be gigging right now, but they may be thinking about getting there one day. And we stress the importance of taking advantage of the opportunities to play with someone like yourself in a setting. And it could be a jam session. It could be invited to be part of something you are already doing. But I was hoping you could comment on the value to these kids. Many of them, they're intimidated to do that. So can you comment on the value of taking advantage of these opportunities to perform publicly and to perform with more established players as sort of part of the process to getting to a place where you can have your own gigs?
Yes, I definitely can. As you were saying that, I was thinking about some of the guys that come to our sessions on Thursday nights. And some of these guys are underage. This is an establishment where they serve alcohol. And You can't have kids in there, but my relationship with the owner allows me to have them come in a certain section and not be served drinks, but to be able to just participate in the session. But getting back to your question, Steve, it's invaluable to you and me to come in and join these sessions, meet these other musicians, encounter their vibe. Because sometimes musicians are a different breed. I told you earlier, some people don't speak, and they give you that impression that they're, more into themselves than they are the rest of the world. It's not that. It's just that some of them are thinking about chords, scales, and that's where their head is. You come up and you see a face that's not really the face that they intend to show. So you can break the ice by saying, hey, how you doing, man? You sound real good. My name is Bade. This is what I do. Now you pull them out of themselves and they're into you. It's about sharing part of you, and don't be afraid if somebody kind of gives you, if the look is really the feel. Sometimes the look isn't the feel, but sometimes it is. And if it is, move on. It's like a baseball player or a cornerback. The cornerback gets burned, but the next play, he's on that play. So yeah, I'd say come out, hang out with different musicians, get to know musicians. They have Al Downing has sessions on Mondays. Dwayne White has offered a lot of opportunities for the new groups to get together and perform for people. Go wherever the music is. It's just like playing basketball. You always go to the courts that the best players are on so that you can learn the level of how to play. If you go play with the scrubs, you're going to play like a scrub. Go play with the cats that's playing. I've always hired, fortunately for me, I've always been able to hire musicians that play so much better than me. And I have to be on point. I have to, oh my God, it scares me a lot of times. It's intimidating. But I've learned a lot from playing with them. You're going to find your place, but you can't do it all at home because it's just you in the mirror at home. So I agree with Steve. Get out and get to know the world and get to know who's doing what you do.
So we talked a lot about preparation, and what advice or guidance do you have for a young jazz student to prepare for a jam session like that? At some point they got to put themselves out there and show up with their instrument. And whether it's they're invited or whether they just know about it and they come hoping to make some contacts, how do you prepare for your first jam session? What do you want to do to be able to be integrated into something like that?
My first thing would be decide which songs you're going to play. If you want to come to the stage and say, hey, Ten of Madness, boom, you're ready because you've already played Ten of Madness 4,000 times. Now, if nothing else, you're going to know how to play Ten of Madness. How you respond with live people, if you're used to playing with tracks, it's going to be a little different because people play faster, they play slower, they play more inconsistent. It's not always as cut and dry as those tracks. The tracks are electronic or digital or whatever. These people are human. So they may start out, before you know it, it's there because the adrenaline is driven. By the time your solo come around, you may be playing a lot faster than you normally used to play. So to get back to the question, the best thing to do is to have 2 or 3 songs in your mind that you want to do already before you hit the set. When you hit the set, most likely the leader will say, so what do you want to do? And then you tell them the tunes that you want to do. And I'd also, from that session, you're going to hear other songs that the band plays. So when you hear those songs, go home and work on those. So when you come back, now you kind of know what they already played. Hey, can I play this with you? That gives you more opportunities on stage.
Yeah, no, I think that's great feedback. One of our participants today, Alan, shared this comment. I recently read in the AFM magazine a quote from Leland Schuyler: "Set up early and be ready to play, and love what is being played. You can bring charts also." What's your reaction to that?
I agree totally, especially bringing charts. Bringing charts shows someone that you've got you've got your own thing established. And a lot of people, I've never heard anyone complain about someone that brings charts, because now that gives us a different sound. You got to try for the bass player, you got to try for the keyboard player. Let's go. You see what I mean? Because now you get a chance to play something different, and you be able to change the mood. You got to remember one thing: when you're playing gigs, especially if it's a regular gig, you're playing not mostly for the staff. The staff are the people that hear you every night. And if you don't play anything different that they like, then they're not motivated to promote you. And a lot of times they don't speak bad of you. It's just their face. If you play Stolen Moments for the 12th time, their face is going to go. But if you're playing something they haven't heard, then they're inspired. You see what I mean? You got to sell yourself to the people that see you the most.
Yeah, no, I think that's spot on. And I don't see any other questions in the chat feature right now, but I do have, maybe I'm going to turn back to you in just a second, Hiram, for just some concluding remarks. But I wanted to thank everybody who participated today in this session. And for those that will be watching and listening in the future, thanks for following along. At clearwaterjazz.com, there's an education and outreach section where you can learn about all the programs that we support and produce during the year, including these. You can watch the many videos that we've done already this year in our studio, and you can listen on the podcast. This particular session will get archived shortly in the studio. And we're almost done with 2020. I can't believe it, man. It's been the longest year, but we've certainly been creative with it. I'm really proud of our response. These Young Lions sessions, we've done a lot of them and have involved and supported some really incredible musicians, many of which are in our own backyard, but several of them are from afar. And in that way, we've reached a lot more people with this programming. Today at 4:30, our good friend Mark Feynman, who's an incredible drummer, is going to be participating in what we call our What I Love About series. And that's when an instrumentalist will pick someone that has inspired them over time. Could be a jazz legend, it could be otherwise, and they talk about them. And what I love about Art Blakey is today with Mark Feynman. And I think the last session of the year, at least on the books right now, is next Monday, another What I Love About series. And then we're going to keep them going into January. So I hope that we've inspired Hiram to continue to participate with these, because he just has so much to share. And, I'm going to turn it back to you, Hiram, for some concluding maybe comments that you might have as we close out today. But I just wanted to thank you for being part of this, man. It's great to see you. And it means the world to us that you are part of it.
Oh, thank you guys so much, Steve. I really appreciate it. I'm really proud to be a part of what you do. I wish we had this when I was growing up. You guys have brought so many musicians out of the woods. That's what Buddy Miles used to say. I'm bringing you out the woods, aren't I? You're bringing people out of the woods, man. You're giving them a chance to see the world from a different platform, which is a great thing. And I really applaud you for that. And if any musicians, want to ask any questions, or better yet, if you want to come out to the sessions, okay, look up our website, lejazz@tampabay.com. Go to our Facebook page, Lay Jazz of Tampa Bay, or even the dance band, hiramsmagic.com. All of those gigs, come out, man. You get a chance to play. You get a chance to witness and feel some of the vibes in the live scene. Because once you go live, you don't go back. Live is a beautiful thing.
No, that's cool. And there's another comment for Alan that I met Hiram at the Hangar last fall. I'm hoping his studio is doing well. Thanks a lot, everyone. That's great. Thank you, Alan, for being part of this today and for sharing that. All right. Yeah. So everybody, on behalf of the Clearwater Jazz Holiday Foundation, all of our partners and sponsors, thanks for being part of this. Happy holidays, happy new year, and stay tuned, stay connected with us as we keep building this wonderful treasure for students of all ages. Be well out there, stay safe, keep playing, keep listening, keep being creative. Hiram, you're the man. We'll see you back real soon.
You guys take care.
All right, bye-bye.